Naagan.
Naagan.
Well, I specialize in progressive indigenous food, right? So it means dish in Ojibwe.
Hey everybody, Shelly here. We're still sorting out the details from our big Canada trip, but we're getting to a point where Brett and I can tell you all about it. I'm very excited. There's so many stories we have. One of the things I realized, though, is that we camped out for most of the time. We were gone for 20 days and 19 nights, and in that time, we stayed in our tent 15 of those days. Now, the 4 days that we stayed, we ended up staying in the Airbnbs for various reasons. I mean, the first day traffic got us way behind. It took like an hour and a half to cross the border, and I was sick of driving, and it was getting dark, and I was just like, no, done. We're gonna stop, and that was completely unexpected. And a couple of those days we were heading to one place or another, and we just ran out of time. We didn't want to set up our tent in the rain and the dark, so we just got an Airbnb. And then one of the times it was going to be 40 degrees and rainy all day and night, so we just changed our plans and booked an Airbnb. But after that, we were pretty good about staying in the tent, even when it was raining. We had a couple days where it was raining, and one night in Lake Superior where it just would not stop raining, and we ended up staying in our tent, playing cribbage and having a cheese plate for dinner, which was perfect. But I viewed the Airbnb as a place where you could get comfort and indoors, a dry, warm place. You could charge your phone and your headlamp and have a warm shower and sleep in a warm bed and check your email and unpack your cooler and clean things up, But when I was looking at some of the listings, I saw they have vacant land that you can pitch a tent on as an option on Airbnb, or this comfy wood cabin where there was no electricity or running water. And I did not expect that at all from Airbnb. I expected at the very least an indoor space, right? You had to read really close to realize that did not have any running water or electricity, so that was bonkers. There's no filter on Airbnb for that, so it was very, very weird, I thought. But yeah, we spent most of our time, 15 of the 19 nights, without electricity or bed, and we had a great time, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. But today, we're going to listen to our interview. It's my co-host Brett Day really leads this interview this is Chef Zach Keeshig from the soon-to-be open Naagan restaurant in Owen Sound, Canada. Zach is a remarkable chef and educator and all-around amazing person. His restaurant will feature progressive indigenous cuisine made from local food that's been sourced from around the Owen Sound area. He really puts his money where his community is, and he works with local farmers and hunters and fishers and foragers and growers to create a set menu. He's going to have 17 guests at a time in a seating. He's going to serve them what he has. So I'm really excited about that. And he's also worked with local artists and artisans to create this amazing space. So if you have a chance, if you're up in Owen Sound, definitely check him out. Naagan opens this month, October 2024. So we will have another trip to Owen Sound coming up in our very near future. But in the meantime, enjoy our conversation.
So I am Chef Zach Keeshig. I have a small restaurant. We're just about to open in the heart of Owen Sound in an old heritage building called the Chicago Building. I specialize in what I call progressive indigenous cuisine, where I showcase things we've grown, we've sourced locally, we get pulled out of the ground, we forage, and then just last year we started getting the approvals to serve wild shot game in our restaurant. But I specialize in a tasting menu, so I do about 12 dishes for 17 people, reservation only. And then as well as the food, we started making our own beverages to pair with our tasting menu, because there's a big stigmatism about indigenous and alcohol and things like that. So I didn't want to have a restaurant that had alcohol in it, so we started making a signature cedar tea. We make a kombucha. We do a juice, we do a wild ginger beer, and then I think depending if I can get out there pretty soon, we might do a cold coffee or something like that when it comes time for the dessert section of our tasting menu. But as well as the restaurant sort of side of stuff, I was a culinary coordinator for a non-for-profit at one time, teaching youth about food and going to gardens and foraging and how to use that sort of stuff, because in my culture that thing's sort of a forgotten art, and nobody was really doing this type of cooking anymore, and people unfortunately haven't had the opportunities I have to work at these Michelin starred restaurants or some of the best restaurants in Canada, and I wanted to give back to youth and things like that. So we do culinary education classes where I take youth and adults around our area, the school board, non-for-profits, or this year we opened it up to the public, but we'll take them to for a foraging walk to identify wild edible plants, and then we usually cook them a dish in the woods, or with the kids we cook a dish and then they'll eat it and things like that. So this space that we have here now is going to be multi-purpose. So Friday to Sunday we're going to do our dinner service, our tasting menu service for 17 guests. Wednesday, Thursday we're going to continue on with our education. But last year we started going to farmers markets to serve our indigenous sourdough, our smoked fish, our beverages we make. We started bottling. This year with the deal that I sort of had with Chapman's, they purchased me like an industrial ice cream machine. So we'll be pinting our sweetgrass ice cream and our sorbets and things like that, and we'll be opening up for a retail day on Thursdays, I think, here.
And starting
October. We've got a few things left to do here, but the interior is done. I got a few things in the kitchen and then to hook up in the bathroom, and then we'll be doing a really good clean in here. It'll be just getting the last approval from the health board for the kitchen, and then from the city, and then I think we're ready to rock and roll. I'm hoping to do our first dinner service within that first week or two of October. We always do a friends and family night, and then we do a media night, just so that we can get our flow of service, because we do, we introduce all the dishes to the guests at the table. We do saucing tableside and things like that. So it's a really, now that we're on this sort of level of cooking, it's more of a theater we have to put on for people too, right?
Yeah, you're killing me though, because we're here now, and it's like 2 months away before I could try your food. Yeah. So that's just okay. Well, we'll get into that later.
Well, we've been very fortunate over the past few years that, like, I started cooking when I was 16, and I turned 34 actually tomorrow. So I've been
happy birthday.
Yes, thank you. I've been cooking for quite a while now, but I started doing my own thing probably about 7 years ago or so. At the time, I didn't really know what kind of food I wanted to cook or things like that. I'd worked for some really great chefs who were number 9 in the world at one time and things like that. And when I'd come back to Owen Sound, I started doing my own tasting menu at the farmer's market. We had just set up, a shitty 10-foot plastic table, invited 12 guests there for, I think it was like $40, $50 a person. It's just so I could start learning about my own style of food. And then it felt like at the time I was just recreating dishes I had learned and seen from like previous people I'd worked for. And at the time, my kid's mother was like, "Oh, why don't you try and do like a style of indigenous food?" That was when I thought maybe I would try to remodernize old recipes from my aunts and and elders on the reserve that I'm from. But when I went back there and was asking for written recipes and things like that, there was nothing to be handed down, and I'm not sure if that's from colonialism or what I mean. It's things like that. So at the time we thought maybe why don't we try to do a progressive style where I use the techniques that I've learned from working in these restaurants, and then we go forage and we use ingredients that Anishinaabe were using on Georgian Bay, because this is traditional Nawash territory, eh?
Right.
So we use ingredients that they were using. We grow things. We go to farms and get that dug up from us that day. We get animals killed for us, fish from the bay, and we do that in our menu, and that's sort of where we're at now.
So you mentioned you grew up on a reservation. Where did you grow up?
When I was younger, my dad is from the Chippewas and Nawash, unceded, Nawash Shingaming. So it's Cape Crooker, so it's just north of here, about I think about 45-minute drive. We grew up there when we were younger, and then we pretty much moved from there to Owen Sound, and I've been in Owen Sound most of my life. I've traveled around to work at different restaurants, but other than that, this has sort of been home almost. Yeah.
And what made you start cooking at 16?
It was I started living on my own probably around that time, and I needed money to buy food and pay rent and stuff like that, because I was renting a room off of my aunt at the time, and I needed money. So my brother had gotten me a job at Montana's, just doing prep and things like that. Mm-hmm. And after that, I had gotten my own apartment, and I had gotten a job at a restaurant down here. It was called the Shays Lounge at the time, and I had just I just sort of fell in love with the art aspect of food. I found the more higher end restaurants you get on, the more art takes place, and sort of the food and what you're doing, and you're able to go forage ingredients that people have never really seen before, or get fish caught straight from the bay and serve that type of stuff. So that's sort of what I fell in love with, and it reflects in my food and my style of cooking that we do.
What was food like at home when you were growing up?
Well, my father, my dad was he was cursed. He was an alcoholic, so he left when I was quite younger. So I was raised by women, and just women were always cooking and things like that, right? So watching women cook for us kids, and I think it was one of us was bound to become a chef, or have something to do with food, and I don't know, maybe it was me, I guess. Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother. He works at a printing factory here. So it's funny, he used to make fun of me all the time because they print magazines and things like that. And I was like, one day you're going to print a magazine of me, eh? And he's like, no, get the hell out of here. And then I think it was last year he ends up printing a magazine. Yeah, printing a magazine, yeah.
Well, maybe you can get a deal on menus.
Yeah. Well, we've been lucky over the past few years that we've been recognized. I've won awards through Canada's 100 Best Restaurants and en route through Air Canada and things like that. So what I really want with this space is Air Canada and the 100 Best, they all do a top 10 best new restaurant that's opened. And I want to try and get on that list for what we're doing. It would help maybe cement my place on the map of Canada. Like, we've gotten some good recognition and things like that, but I think it would really cement my place on there if we were there, and I don't think we'd ever have to worry about this place being filled or things like that too. We're trying to create a destination sort of spot here in Owen Sound.
So you said you worked at Michelin star restaurants. Was that all here in Owen Sound, or did you live
No, I moved elsewhere. So I worked with a man named Michael Statlander in Singhampton. His farm's Egginson Farm, and he's sort of one of the founding fathers of farm to table food. And at one time, his restaurant, that farm there, was number 9 in the world at one time. And I worked with him for a number of years. And then I'd come back and I'd taken a job at a golf course here, but I got sick of a la carte cooking. So it's where I write a menu, the menu never ever changes, and we do the same shit every day, and I got really bored of that sort of stuff. So that was when I had sought out Michael and went and worked and did a stage with Michael, and then eventually did an internship. And then when I'd come back, I went to Langdon Hall for a while, and that was in Cambridge. So that was a restaurant that sort of put them on the map, was Langdon Hall. I've been at Pearl Morissette in Niagara. I was at one Michelin star Enigma in Toronto, and then I've done a Michelin recommended, I'm not too sure if it's a Bib Gourmand or if it's a recommendation, but Canoe in Toronto. So down that way, yeah.
So did any of the restaurants you worked for, was there any sort of, and I want to use the right term, is it indigenous foods? Was any of that in? It's
all Canadian inspired, right? So okay. It's hard to. What I think Canadian food is like, we're not doing very traditional food. We're not doing traditional things, but we're using traditional ingredients. So I think if you want to talk about Canadian food, we have to go back to, sort of maybe Anishinaabe sort of teachings and things like that to incorporate into your food. So all these restaurants, they all do Canadian food, but I think they do Canadian food in their terroir and their landscape. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
One of my favorite restaurants and favorite people is Pearl Morissette, and they have their own regenerative farm on on their restaurant, but they do a lot of foraging and incorporate wild ingredients in some of their dishes and things like that. So a lot of restaurants do that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's been a trend.
Well, I think that's why, like just this past year, we've been asked to cook with these people, right? Like we cooked at Pro Morissette for some journalists from the world's 50 best list. We did a collaboration dinner with Canoe, the Pine down in Creemore. So we've been able to work with these type of people because I think they want to see our Canadian food and what we're doing and things like that too. Yeah.
You'd said that there's no document of the sort of traditional fare that you wanted to revisit.
Yeah.
But is there like no word of mouth stuff or handout? Or no?
There's word of mouth and things like that, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to use ingredients that were like indigenous weren't eating chicken eggs and stuff like that, right? Like they were finding wild duck eggs and wild goose eggs and using that sort of thing. So we switched our like we use just straight duck eggs in our cooking, but with our modernization, like who's to say that we can't? One of my signature dishes is an ice cream that we make with duck eggs, but it's flavored with wild like sweetgrass that we grow. And who's to say that that's not indigenous, right? Because we're using that's sort of my thinking of food. Like, why can't we bring these ingredients and things sort of to the 21st century and have more of a modern take on more of a progressive modern take on indigenous food. Like we were getting wild geese shot for us, and we were serving wild goose in here, and somebody shot me a little doe. We were serving doe. I think with our food now, I focused a lot on getting our food caught, or from other indigenous people. So all of our fish we get is by my cousin. She has a fishing boat just off of in Southampton there. So we get all of our fish indigenously caught. You know what I mean? So who's to say I can't make a white fish dish that's indigenous caught fish with wild service berries we pickled, and a sauce made from fennel that's from my garden, and then we pickled elderberry. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I think you're right. You're starting with the ingredients.
Yeah, starting with the ingredients.
And I'm sure there are traditions that many people remember. So you can, this is a great if you use it for this. Pairings.
And then when I first started this, I wanted to make sure that I was doing our food, not properly, but getting approvals from elders and stuff like that. Because at one time I was using chaga to make an ice cream. We made a chaga ice cream with burnt birch bark and then sweetened it with birch syrup. So I wanted to get approval from elders from where I'm from. For the food that I was doing, you know what I mean, just to make sure and things like that, and everybody's been okay with what I've been doing and things like that. Yeah.
That ice cream sounds amazing.
The birch one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because winter gets pretty bad around here, and there's no fresh ingredients, right? So the one year I decided let's try to start using and incorporating trees into some of our dishes. So we found about 30 minutes out of here, a big place where there's birch. So we go and we harvest the birch paper, and we burn it until it's got that smoky sort of flavor, and then we steep it in our cream when we make ice cream. We strain it out in the egg yolks, we sweeten it with birch syrup, and then we make this sort of leaf tuile out of chaga. And then when we go to plate it, there's birch bark on the actual bowl, and we torch that before it goes to the guests. So then they smell the birch, they eat the birch, they see all this sort of stuff, right? Yeah, it's one of the dishes I'm proud of. It's a nice one.
That's fantastic. Awesome. And again,
it sounds weird to some people, but it's really amazing. You get this really light smoky flavor, and then the birch syrup, and
Well, I think that's for everybody else to catch up on, right? Like, it's only in the last couple of years people even like going, oh, wait a minute, other trees make syrup.
Other
than me.
100%, 100%, yeah.
So people are just scrabbling to that, and chaga is not new to Shelley. She uses it, makes chaga tea on the regular, but it's not prevalent, and people don't regularly know it.
I think it's because nobody's ever really cooked with it, right? Like,
that's what got me fascinated. The idea of cooking with it sounds brilliant.
Because I'd always heard about drinking the tea and stuff like that, but then when I tried the tea, like it didn't have a crazy amount of flavor to it and things like that. So I thought maybe let's try to cook with it. So we put it in a blender and we pulverize it till it's very, 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 very fine, and then we pass it through a tammy or a sieve so that it's super, super fine. And then we can make like, you know, a chaga sponge cake. We can add a bit of chaga to a cake, or we can, you know, steep it in ice cream and then strain it out afterwards. And you know what I mean? You get that medicinal sort of property from it.
Right.
Yeah. It took a while to learn how to do that because like it's pretty much a, you know, a piece of bark, So like to pulverize it very, very fine and then be able to
cook with it. He's had some trials trying to pulverize it.
Although this is what I'm curious, is like, is that known technique, or is this a technique that you've just had to invent?
I think it's a technique that we had to invent. When I searched around for people who are cooking with chaga, nobody was cooking with chaga. I've never ever seen it before. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was just something I stumbled across one day. Like we blended very, very fine, and then we tried to cook with it after it was blended, and there was too many. It was too chalky, too grainy still. And then we started sifting it, and then it came out super, super fine. And then that was like, oh, now we can do a million different things with this if we wanted to. We can make chaga bread if we wanted to. You know what I mean? Like a chaga pita, or you know what I mean? We could do a million different things with it. It's the same with, like, we stopped using lemons in our cooking, right? So we can grow things, or we can, you know, find unripe grapes or gooseberries, or now we use a bit of sea buckthorn juice, or, you know what I mean? We pickle things, we make our own vinegar, we use sumac to bring acidity to dishes.
I was going to say sumac, it always seems to me a very citrus.
Yeah, or even saying we stopped using black pepper. So we can grow things that have sort of a black pepper flavor. We can grow, you know, arugula, we can find wild watercress. You know, we can use nasturtiums. We can do all this sort of stuff without using black pepper, right? And it's same with one of the big things that we wanted to get rid of was vanilla. So instead of using vanilla, this is called sweet clover. So this, and when it's fresh, it has a very, very distinct, almost tonka bean like smell to it or flavor. And then we started using fresh sweetgrass and sweet woodruff and things like that for our cooking. And that's sort of where we're at with this sort of stuff, yeah.
So you're doing a lot of just trial and error and experiments, and
our food's kind of experimental, but when I first started this, it was a lot of experimenting, right? Because nobody was really doing this sort of stuff, and I made a lot of shitty food at the start. You know what I mean? But as we sort of progress in our cooking and we learn how to use these ingredients, things become a lot better. We come up with new techniques and better ideas of how to use these type of ingredients here.
And very thoughtful about the locality and making sure everything is from around here, which is really, I find it rare with chefs. It seems like you've had some really good mentors.
Yeah, well, I wanted to showcase my region, right? Like I wanted to put my region on the map for food and what we were doing for sourcing and, you know, ingredients we were using, and then the style of food that we were cooking. And I think that's why we've gotten the recognition that we have from, you know, people and things like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, let's see. Where can we find the ice cream? I heard it was
ice cream. Yes.
Sale other places.
No.
Okay.
Everybody's been asking that question. I've become an ice cream man now. So this. I met Ashley Chapman, so he's the owner of Chapman's Ice Cream. So this was during COVID. I'd finally started my own business. Like I was working, but then doing private dinners and stuff like that still. And I finally said, you know what, I'm going to go on my own, because I had different views of teaching and things like that I wanted to do on my own from where I was working before. And this was during COVID I started my business, So I was like, oh God. Yeah. So I was very lucky that Ashley had reached out and was like, hey, will you do some lunches for the frontline workers in Owen Sound here? And gave us paid me quite a bit to do this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, thank you, man, because, it was COVID times. And then this year, and I think it was January or February, something like that, he had called me again and was like, this company called Seeing Red, they're an indigenous owned media company who amplifies, indigenous voices like yourself. They're planning to do a fashion show in Toronto at Casa Loma, one of the first of its kind ever to be done. and they want to partner and have an indigenous chef make an indigenous inspired ice cream. So we were already making the sweetgrass ice cream. So that was when I was like, oh, you know what, this would be a great time to, be able to speak about sweetgrass and, the maple syrup and things like that. So I decided to, let's make this sweetgrass ice cream. Because I don't condone of other indigenous chefs. I see them using braided ceremonial sweetgrass to cook with all the time. And I don't think that's right. We started growing our own sweetgrass or finding it wild fresh and using that instead of ceremonial stuff, right? So we'll be serving the ice cream at this fashion show, September 13th at the Casa Loma. There's been no talks right now, actually a little bit, but no talks for Chapman's to put it in production, but they've had so many people asking about them. There's an indigenous owned grocery stores across Canada that want that in their grocery store. So we've been in talks to find out how myself can have that into production with Chapman's help on that mass production. But with this sort of deal, Chapman's has bought us an industrial ice cream machine that's in the back. So like I said before, in our retail days, we'll be making the ice cream and having it frozen here for retail purposes on Thursdays. But we'll be doing our sorbets and we'll be doing different ice creams as well. We'll probably do that birch ice cream. We'll be doing different things, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the indigenous grocery stores around Canada. I didn't know about
Yeah.
that. I'd like to know because we're doing a tour around.
If I could remember what it was, I'd tell you.
Oh man.
Yeah, if I could remember what it was. I have so many conversations these days, and I have a hard time. I don't know, putting it all together.
All right, so we'll Google
Sadly,
that.
I'm betting the Google will probably have it out. So.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you have a network of chefs doing what you do, like indigenous chefs that are sort of toying in this area that you connect with.
Not really. Honestly,
really? Okay.
Yeah, from what we're doing and just the background that I have in food, a lot of indigenous chefs have gone more the traditional route of cooking food, where we're pushing the boundaries on what indigenous food could be, right? And I think nobody's really done that before. So I think right now we're sort of leading the pack on, the progressive style of indigenous food and what could be done with it.
So because it's there's sort of two edges of the same sword in that case, right? Isn't it? Is you're going in one bringing back bringing up forward indigenous food, traditional or otherwise, is just it's fresh and new to, I'm going to imagine, a huge part of the population that you're serving.
Oh yeah.
And then, but also taking those and saying, yeah, but we're going to do, restaurant ideas. We're going to do creative thinking with it as well. So that makes it. That's weirdly the place where it brings it more into the plateau for the average John Street.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's very hard to find, I think indigenous owned restaurants and things like that. Like the way we're going, like we're going to be the first indigenous restaurant that's going to be tasting menu only. Like there's never been an indigenous restaurant that's a tasting menu only, right? That's only chef's choice. Like when you come here, you don't have a choice, eh? Like I cook what I cook, and that's what you get for the night. So
I like
my
that.
favorite. No decisions.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, and also adamant respect to the provider. That's where I get a bit iffy when it's like, oh right, here's your food and here's the ketchup, here's all the abuses, here's all, you know what I mean? There's those places where people want this but they don't want this, and so I much prefer it's like, here's my money, feed me.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to. We put so much time and effort to some of this stuff that we make, Like we got pickled chanterelles up there that we'll serve eventually. Like it's just a lot of time and effort that we've gone out to, forage these things or grow these things or, drive all the way out there just to get fresh fish for the night or, have somebody shoot us geese for the night or things like that. And I just want people to, appreciate the time and effort that some of my cooks and I have put into this sort of stuff. Like sometimes I see these guys more than I do my own kids because we put so much effort into what we're doing. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I think it's kind of wonderful because good Lord, you've created something. You've made a work of art that's to be enjoyed in that standard. You know, as your mum ever used to say to you, for God's sake, try it before you put salt on it.
Yeah.
I mean, for goodness sakes.
Like, we're on some of the indigenous tourism lists and stuff like that, and it's hard to find people doing places that you can actually stop at to get food. And you know, I know Sean Atler and those guys, I think they're more of a traveling, they go to powwows and serve more powwow food and things like that. So I think it's just hard to find and hard to come by.
Yeah, powwows are pretty much over for the year, aren't they? Or they're still
Nawash just had theirs. I think maybe around this area it might be. I was just out in, where was I, in Manitoulin at their powwow. Saugeen had their powwow. Cape had their powwow. So there might be a few coming up. I'm not quite sure. No, I was just out in Manitoulin out. I forget what the reserve is there, but a huge powwow there. We did a cooking demo at the powwow with the Indigenous Tourism Ontario. And dummy me, I thought for some reason there was a bridge that crossed over from Tobermory to Manitoulin, and didn't realize I had to take the ferry over. So I called the ferry and it's booked up. So then I had to drive all the way around. It took about 6 hours almost.
Oh wow!
Yeah. We were at Promo Set, and we were very lucky to cook for some journalists from the world's 50 best. So I'm working on something to have them come next summer here, so I can take them to the fishing boats and take them to the bison farm, and show them the gardens, and then come have dinner here, and hopefully we can put Indigenous food on the world map of Canada, not just on the Canadian map. You know what I mean? So yeah, the future looks good for us.
That's another thing you're saying. So you're doing already some collaborations with farmers to actually grow things, some of the elements?
Yeah, we have a community garden just down here that we have a bunch of plots there, and then they allow us to use pretty much whatever we want from there. So we get all of our edible flowers, all of our herbs from there. We go down to the farmers market here every week to see what produce is in season. Mm-hmm. We have foragers that come here now, because I unfortunately can't get out foraging as much as I used to. We have foragers that bring us stuff, and then I don't know, word of mouth going to other farms and things like that. We're able to get tons of stuff to cook with. Like with our menu, our menu never changes. The courses always stay the same, but like maybe one night you'll get a parsnip puree, and then the next the next week it'll be a wild apple puree, or like the dishes always stay the same, but some of the ingredients change based on what's in the season. Right. So our menus are constantly changing almost. Yeah, hard to keep up with sometimes almost.
Yeah, I mean, we went for a walk yesterday and saw plenty of apples.
Yeah. Apples are in season right now, so we'll be cooking with apples, making apple sorbet and apple and cedar sorbet and stuff like that. Yeah, so
nice. Well, I think it seems like so much of what is at the core of this, and I'm sure it's also at the core of other traditional fare that we've just gotten used to, but is the connection directly to the landscape, to the immediate landscape. So it's the food is indigenous as the people. So just that connection, both just for the delight of the food, but also tying it right back to the landscape from which it all hails. That's the different thing, right? We've gotten so used to everything is mass produced. You can have whatever you need to make whatever food you need at a given time, but to be that specific, to bring in those unique flavors that are literally, no, I need to go out to the woods or have somebody go out to the woods for me to bring them in.
Well, I don't even think it's just that anymore. Like I've worked really hard to put a spotlight on other Indigenous businesses around our area. Like we don't use white sugar in our cooking at all. So we use either maple syrup, we use honey, or if we have to use sugar with some of this old baking sort of stuff, we use that free trade organic cane sugar. But it's even going to buy Nawash maple syrup to have on your pancakes in the morning. Go get fish from the Indigenous caught fishing boats. You know what I mean? Maybe go out and support other Indigenous businesses that way. And I think with what we're doing now, I'm able to showcase those other businesses and where to find them and things like that. And that's something that I've taken real pride in the past year or so, is doing that sort of stuff too. I also think when we buy local, our money stays local too, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It helps our community out. I don't know, from the past few years, Owen Sound has just declined on this downtown area, and I don't know what it is, if it's Like it's turned into a lot of drug use around here, and I don't know if people not coming down to support their local businesses and instead going to Walmart to buy things. Like I thought it was crazy during COVID, right? Like people were losing their minds because there wasn't ground beef or ground pork in Walmart at one time. But Jim down the road here has is a beef farmer who's begging for people like us to go and buy beef from him, right? Or he's going to lose his home. You know what I mean? Like why don't we think of why don't we think the other way and go buy stuff from our friends and farmers and family members and things like that? And I don't know what it is. I think we just need to. I think just things have become too accessible for everybody.
Yep.
And I just think we need to go back to more. I don't know, simpler times.
Well, no, you're right. It's circular economy. Circular economy. I love a circular economy.
We used to kill our own animals at one of the farms that I worked at, and I believe that everybody should kill a chicken or a duck one time in their life. Like sometimes, like my kids, even though I teach them about it, they think chickens just show up in the grocery store. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think everybody should kill a chicken or something once to know exactly from the start to beginning and where food comes from, and we took this thing's life for us to eat and things like that. Yeah, it's a wild experience.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean there's a place. I mean I have to admit I don't know that I would have the stones to confront it, but you're absolutely right. There's got to be that at least gives a note of respect.
Yeah.
To what you're taking. There's some honor to how your behavior is.
Well, and I think you'd have a more of an appreciation for food too, right? Like instead of going to Walmart and buying a chicken from God knows when it was killed, or what I mean, like there's a guy at the farmers market who kills chickens every week and sells them. Like you have more of appreciation of these free run chickens and how they've been killed and what they were fed and things like that. Yeah. We, like, before when I was younger, I used to serve beef and stuff like that, and chicken and things like that, but we found more, there's a bison farm not far from here, so we started getting bison all the time. It's a bit more leaner, but it's really nice, so trying to use, more of that traditional stuff that people were eating, and, I think bison's a bit more of a sustainable meat source anyway, instead of, mass-produced beef that, like, I don't know, it's crazy once you get into it, sort of thing.
So would we have to go to the farm to buy some bison, or do they sell it in other stores?
Yeah, they have a farm gate just outside of town here that you can buy. They have lots and lots of it. It's crazy. I found them, when was it? The start of this year, I think. One of my friends, he's a chef and co-owner of Richmond Station in Toronto. And they use a lot of farm products and stuff like that. And I was telling him, I was like, I want to start using more traditional things and, get rid of using beef and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, there's a bison farm just out not far from you, right? So we went out there, we took the tour. You can take a tour and see the bison roaming, feed them wild apples. Yeah, it's a really neat experience, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We can bring some apples.
You don't even have to. The property's so big that they're from where are they from? They're from they're South African. Mm. So when I first went there and I was talking to them, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I couldn't understand them, right? But now the more and more I go out there, they're some of the nicest people I've ever met. Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Snowy Creek Bison. Yeah, it's just out in Kemble there.
So is there anything that we haven't asked you that you might want to share with people?
I just think I've just been a big advocate of trying to put indigenous food on the map of Canada, and then hopefully here pretty soon getting it recognized on the world map of Canada. You hear about Chinese food, Italian food, French food, Indian food all the time, but when is indigenous food going to have its turn on the platform? And I think with the work we're doing and the vision and stuff we're trying to create here, we're well on our way to putting this on the world map and the map of Canada. And I just hope that people look into this maybe a little bit more about where they can go to maybe support an indigenous business, or I don't know, buy a gift certificate, something like that, or different things, and just help support the cause and help push this to where it needs to be, sort of not just in the world of food, but I think just in the world type thing. And And yeah.
Where can people find you? Not until October, but you want to just talk about where people can find you, like maybe social media, your website, whatever.
Yeah, social media. So right now we're revamping our website. We're trying to make it an easier booking platform on our website, because before we were accepting reservations through an email, and then someone would have to go through the emails and then book everything. So we're trying to make that easier on guests, and then for booking for teaching as well. So we'll be finished that here in a couple weeks. But right now people can find us on Instagram at Chef Zach Keeshig. And then if they want to follow us on Facebook, it's Naagan by Chef Zach Keeshig, and that's NAAGANBYZACHKEESHIG.
Excellent. And maybe someday you'll be able to find your ice cream in stores.
I'm hoping so. That'd be quite nice.
Love that too. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Everyone knows that food is food. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon. Everyone knows that food.
With Bowl and Spoon is written, produced and hosted by Shelley Danko Day.
Eat that food with
Original theme song was written and performed by Paul LeBreeze and friends.
bowl.
You can listen to With Bowl and Spoon wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, review and share. Follow us and send us questions or messages on Facebook and Instagram at With Bowl and Spoon. Thanks for listening.
Like when we finish this, we'll have cedar hanging from the roof and stuff coming down. I wanted people to feel like they were walking into, a bit of a woodland, sort of thing when they walk through the door. No sign out front, just the skulls. The skulls I got when I was at Michael Statlander's, I used to be the forager there. And I remember the one time I was foraging in the woods, and his farm must have been an old cattle farm. So I found a bunch of skulls like that out in the woods there.
Decor.
Yeah, decor, yeah. And then all this art you see is all stuff that's been made from indigenous artists around the area. He does a bit more of, Basquiat sort of style, eh? More graffiti sort of art.
It's fine. I'm rather liking it.
Yeah, it looks like Basquiat style. And then this is a bit more of a traditional woodland sort of style of art. And then like I was saying, all this stuff, these are all real sheepskins that we had, killed from our sheep farm around here. All the tables were made from this young guy who started making us, he made us some bowls one time. And then at the time I was like, oh, it's time for me to start investing in tables and things like that. So this is all maple and cherry and stuff that he's gotten, planed them down, and then we have them all wood burned with different things from a local wood burner too. And then even the legs, you all hand forged and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, rose hips. This one's sweetgrass. All of our pottery we get made by local potters too, right? So this one I had made last year. There's an indigenous story how Turtle Island, so the world was created on the back of a turtle. And I wanted to get a turtle made so that when we got local fish and stuff like that, we could have it in the turtle's back to represent sort of the Turtle Island style.
That is beautiful. I like that.
And then these ones here we got. So this is made from a local potter around here. He uses a wood fire kilning. So this isn't glazed at all. So this is from the actual wood fire and the ash from the wood fire kilning. So every piece that we have like this is different and unique because depending on where it's sitting in the kiln. And then these ones we got. This is sort of our wildcraft one. We got these ones made from a guy down in Toronto. I really don't like I find too often you go to restaurants and it's all white plates and boring stuff like that, eh? So we really wanted unique pieces to showcase our food in, and so that's where the art aspect comes in. You have the art of the food now and all this different stuff.
And what are those little boxes?
So this is where at the end of our dinner we do So we start off with 3 snacks, then we do 7 dishes, but at the end of dinner you get what's called midnardaise or petit four. So it's like little treats and stuff like that. So we use this, and we'll fill these things, and then this would sort of come to the table, and then this would be your sort of final few bites of the evening. We tell the guests to be able they're able to open this up. We fill this with cedar and like little. We use this for our sponge topping we make from maple syrup from Naagan, and then we do some other things. Sweet.
Are these sculptures or are they actual?
Those are mushrooms from. Those are birch polypores. They're picked off of birch trees.
That is so cool.
Great idea.
Stones, the same stones we got from Naagan and from Northern Bay here.
That's
Nice
really
idea.